because Sri Aurobindo often uses Titan in Savitri with a lower t, lowercase t, just meaning vast, huge, Titan. But this is the Titan. So you want to start?
He strives
Okay.
with a giant strength to wrest by force from life and nature the immortal's right. He takes by storm the world and fate and heaven.
Okay, got every word. Wonderful. So the Titan does have a giant strength. There's no doubt about that. Um, we've read about him in Greek history, Greek mythology. He's very famous. Um, and he does strive to wrest by force with his giant strength. What does he strive to wrest? He's striving to wrest it from life and nature, but it's the immortal's right that he wants to wrest by force. Those two lines are extremely important like that, that they're almost like one line. And then the next line, he takes by storm the world and fate and heaven. We have to realize that he is very powerful. And these beings now are very powerful. I was happy to hear about Trump getting freed of this lawsuit. I mean, this court case.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good news at least. Okay, let's move on.
He comes not to the high world maker's seat. He waits not for the outstretched hand of God to raise him out of his mortality.
So Sri Aurobindo is spending a lot of time talking about this Titan because
Yes.
Hitler was managed by this Titan. Stalin, mother said, didn't even have a soul. And
Yes.
so he was a Titan. And there were others like Idi Amin
Who is that? I don't.
in Africa when he made all the Indians leave his country. He said, only my people can be here. Made everyone be foreigner. He was a bad one. So this Titan takes by storm the world and fate and heaven. Now he doesn't come to the world maker's seat. The world maker is the divine in his creative aspect through Prakriti. And he doesn't wait for the outstretched hand of God. He doesn't want to involve God in his work because he wants to dominate by force. We're seeing this in the world today. We're seeing this whole thing replayed again and again in the world. Now I just saw that this Jai Shankar really criticized Soros, called him an old man and an evil man.
Yeah.
So he doesn't wait for the outstretched hand of God to raise him out of his mortality. So he doesn't want to become a god. He wants, in his mortality, to take control in a body.
Yeah.
That's what the Titan is. Okay, we'll continue on.
All he would make his own, leave nothing free, stretching his small self to cope with the infinite.
Interesting, huh? Sri Aurobindo understands that the Titan is a small self. I mean, Hitler was a clerk
Mm.
and a failed artist, small self.
Mm.
But he had an Asura who was leading him. who looked like a god. I told you the story of Nalini before at the Samadhi.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So they appear, they challenge everyone. But Mother says they're also my children. So what can we say? So he would make everything his own. Yes, he wants to dominate the world. And this is what we're seeing again in the world. Stretching his small self to cope. To cope is to strive with difficulty, to overcome something, to contend with the infinite. Stretching his small self to cope with the infinite. Okay, carry on.
Obstructing the gods' open ways, he makes his own estate of the earth's air and light. A monopolist of the world energy, he dominates the life of common men.
Yeah, only that first sentence, I feel, um, that there has to be a tie-in to the next line. So, obstructing the gods' open ways, he makes his own estate. So, there has to be a slight pause always. Oh, I don't think I sent you that because you're not on my Savitri Sunday group. I'll send you. I wrote an article on how to read Savitri
Yes,
because
yes, I'd like to.
I have many different nationalities now on that group. I
Okay.
have Russians, I have Indians, I have Germans, I have Americans, British. So we discussed that last Sunday in our session, how actually to read Savitri, and I had the good fortune to visit with Amal Kiran, and he wrote me a huge thing. I'll share it with you. Okay. He is.
Should I read it again? Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Obstructing the gods' open ways, he makes his own estate of the earth's air and light.
Yeah, but you didn't pause. You didn't pause. After every line, there has to be even the slightest pause, even if it's an enjambed line. What's an enjambed line?
Yes.
What is it?
It's when the sentence continues
Yes.
onto the next.
So even when it's an enjambed line, Amal told me there has to be a slight pause. So obstructing the god's open ways, he makes his own estate. Especially when there's no punctuation mark.
Okay.
If you have a semicolon or you have a colon, that's a little different. It still has to be a pause, but it could be a little longer. Okay, try it.
Yes. Obstructing the gods' open ways, he makes his own estate of the earth's air and light. A monopolist of the world energy, he dominates the life of common men.
So he is even someone who has total control of the world energy. And he dominates, he rules the life of common men. Now, we should go on because this is still about him. So let's continue.
His pain and others' pain he makes his means. On death and suffering he builds his throne. In the hurry and clangor of his acts of might, in a riot and excess of fame and shame, by his magnitudes of hate and violence, by the quaking of the world beneath his tread, he matches himself against the Eternal's calm, and feels in himself the greatness of a god. Power is his image of celestial self.
So the Titan is only out for power and control. Those are the
Yes.
two major things. So then have to look at. So he dominates the life of common men. His pain, because he has to go through a lot of pain also. I mean, we have Prometheus, who gave the light to humanity, and the Greek god, I guess it was Zeus, told him that, or punished him by having an eagle come and rip out his liver every day, liver or kidney, and then it would grow back, and every day he would have to face that same pain. Yeah. So his pain and others' pain, he makes his means. And it can only be by pain that he can really take over, take control. And he builds his throne on death and suffering. And in the hurry and clangor, what is a clangor? It's a harsh sound.
Noise,
Repeated
yes.
noise, yes. In the hurry and clangor of his acts of might, in a riot and excess of fame and shame, interesting line, by his magnitudes of hate and violence, by the quaking of the world beneath his tread. Quaking is shaking, instability. He matches himself against the eternal's calm and feels in himself the greatness of a god. Power is his image of celestial self. So we see that he does have a power for some time. There's no doubt about that. Of course, the divine does not allow that permanently, but because all these things have to pass through. Now that the supermental is here, especially, everything has to go. And whether it will go, as Shadalu said in his last talk, by crashing circumstances, or we don't know yet. It may have to be like that. Still in too much darkness to know if we can get out of it. We've got a little time, so let's go a couple more lines.
The Titan's heart is a sea of fire and force. He exults in the death of things and ruin and fall. He feeds his strength with his own and others' pain. In the world's pathos and passion, he takes delight. His pride, his might call for the struggle and pang.
See how much time Sri Aurobindo is giving to this, so we understand this Titan. The Titan, for me, Sanjana, can be a group, a force controlling a group. It doesn't have to be an individual person, at least for me. I can see the Titan in many things in the world today, the Titan's force. And his heart is a sea of fire and force. And yeah, I guess I didn't get that one, but on Prometheus, it's a different one. Sri Aurobindo says in his synthesis of yoga, the Titan who lives in his own inordinately magnified shadow mistakes ego for the self and spirit. Interesting, huh? And tries to impose his fragmentary personality as the one dominant existence upon all his surroundings. Very, very interesting. He speaks a lot about the Titan in Essays Divine and Human, in essays in philosophy and yoga, of course in the synthesis, but mainly in the essays. I found a lot of things. So he exults triumphant joy, exultation. He exults in the death of things and ruin and fall. He wants things to be ruined, to be destroyed, so he can stand on top. And he feeds his strength with his own and others' pain. In the world's pathos, I say pathos, I don't know if that's, I think pathos is the better pronunciation. And passion, he takes delight. His pride, his might call for the struggle and pang. So can you read everything and we'll finish up?
Yes. He strives with a giant strength to wrest by force from life and nature the immortal's right. He takes by storm the world and fate and heaven. He comes not to the high world maker's seat. He waits not for the outstretched hand of God to raise him out of his mortality. All he would make his own, leave nothing free, stretching his small self to cope with the infinite. Obstructing the gods' open ways, he makes his own estate of the earth's air and light. A monopolist of the world energy, he dominates the life of common men. His pain and others' pain he makes his means. On death and suffering he builds his throne. In the hurry and clangor of his acts of might, in a riot and excess of fame and shame, by his magnitudes of hate and violence, by the quaking of the world beneath his tread, he matches himself against the Eternal's calm, and feels in himself the greatness of a god. Power is his image of celestial self. The Titan's heart is a sea of fire and force. He exults in the death of things and ruin and fall. He feeds his strength with his own and others' pain. In the world's pathos and passion, he takes delight. His pride, his might call for the struggle and pang.
Much better reading today. You got that idea of that small, light pause.
Yes.
But even when we have the pause, we have to carry through, so we can't drop the word at the bottom. Now, how do I get this Sanjana berry? There it is.
Yes, yes.
Good. I'll send it to you now. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.